Obviously, Colorado coming off of a big win, emotional. You guys had some extra time to prepare. I mean, when you look at film, what stands out to you?
They are a complete football team. You look, they've been superb on defense. I think especially you look about the last 20 minutes of each game, and same thing offensively too. Very, very explosive. Oh my, what are they averaging? Like 43 points a game. Tremendous at the receiver position, but they're physical and they run the ball downhill. Have very good mobility with a veteran quarterback. Defensively, extremely stout up front. Just size that you so rarely see at any level of football, whether that's college or the NFL.
When you have a matchup like this and you're talking about state rivalry going on, I mean, how much extra does it kind of add to the flavor of practice and the week of preparation?
I don't know if necessarily practice, or the preparation. I think you're always really, really thorough, and in the various situations that can arise. If that's on the goal line, if that's in short yardage, if it's on third down, you're still going through each one of those particular areas when it comes to situational football.
But in regards to the players that are from here that see the state rivalry game, is there something that that you've kind of noticed is that they're a little bit more, there's a little bit more pep in the step this week from some of the players?
Perhaps we're a national school. We've been really, really fortunate. Colorado's been great to us, in terms of the quality of high school football players that have chosen to come to the Air Force Academy. But we won't have as many as we would certainly in other states. That's probably where we're a little bit different if they were playing, Colorado State or Wyoming, quite frankly.
You talked about a veteran quarterback. How important is it to get pressure on him early?
I don't know if we'd ever play one that if he was a young or veteran, where you wouldn't want that. He is a tremendous player. The threat that he is, again, with his mobility, both on some design runs, but especially on the way he's able to extend plays. The other part of it, they do a heck of a job in protection, too, with certainly receivers that get down the field in a hurry. And I think more than anything else, what's most obvious with the receivers is how well they're able to take a ball and make it into a much bigger gain, too, just because of how effective they are with yards after a grab.
Coach, you talk about receivers. Laviska Shenault, maybe the best receiver in college football. What stands out to you about his game, and how do you stop a guy like that?
Yeah, that's good. That has yet to occur. I think especially the last year and a half, extremely powerful. I mean, really, in addition to have tremendous speed and explosive movement, the various ways that that he's utilized. He's a wildcat quarterback. If it's fly sweeps, few wide receiver screens, but just his run after the catch, like I said, I mean, just how talented he is, both those kids from the same high school.
I think the other day you compared him to an Andre Johnson. Is that kind of the player you would say he resembles?
It's ironic you say that. I got home late last night, and Amanda had recorded one of the NFL games, and she said, "You got to watch this finish," and it was the Saints and the Texans. So we watch it, and the guy hits the field goal, and about 2 minutes later, I see Andre Johnson walk across the field to shake hands, so he must have been there in some capacity with the Texans. I thought, oh, my goodness, is it a nightmare here, or is this really happening? That's Andre Johnson, so that gets your attention, and he is. I mean, you just look. Andre, I think when he played for us at Houston, was between about 6'1.5", 6'2", 218, 220 pounds, incredibly fast, highly, highly powerful and explosive, and unbelievable player. And the resemblances are striking.
Coach, I know you guys have had a long time to prepare for CU with the bye week last week, but do you guys talk about how long it has been since you guys have met on the football field? Is that a narrative that you bring into the locker room, or is it just the opportunity on Saturday?
You're saying with our players?
Yeah.
Not necessarily with our players. I think so much of what you do with your players, the things that you have to take care of away from football, how we do it in school, that week gave us a heck of an opportunity, I think, to really, really get rolling, especially kind of go through the first wave of graded items here the first couple of weeks in September. Let's being able to pinpoint some benchmarks of where we are right now. If it's on a paper, if it's on a project, maybe getting ahead a little bit in a couple of classes, that's invaluable for a cadet at the United States Air Force Academy, especially somebody for the time that they invest as an intercollegiate and specifically in the sport of football. And then you're working on your own execution, and that's where I think, to play your best, that's where your focus has to be. Now, I do think you could probably get not just because they're 19 or 20, you could get somebody in here and probably poke them or chum them or, just saying, hey, look, there's some bait in the water here, and try to stir them up a little bit. But in the bigger scope, it's how well you block. It's how well we tackle in the open field, because that'll be difficult to do. Be how well we hold on to the ball. It'll be how well we execute at a really, really high level.
Now, this might be a little off, but there was a ton of red in the stadium this past weekend. How fun would it be to see a ton of blue up there?
Well, I don't know if it's quite the exact same student body size. And my gut says there's probably one school that maybe has – if you took our total graduate base that lives in the Mountain Time Zone, I don't know if we'd match even the student body size at that other institution. You couldn't have two schools that are further apart in that regard. We're a tiny school. I mean, really, you look, 4,000 students with very few graduates that live in the local area, just because not only are they national, but they're really global too.
Have you personally noticed any difference in, the community's interest in this game or anything like that, in terms of conversations you've had?
I think naturally you've heard a couple, here or there, where somebody will bring up a discussion. It's just for our own players, so much of what we do, if it's about the young people, and maybe some may say it shouldn't be, maybe it should be in terms of other factors. I just think if that's what it's most important in terms of, an experience they're able to have playing intercollegiate sports, that's what we want to provide.
And what kind of runner is Alex Fontenot? How would you kind of describe
They have two excellent backs. You look, both of them, they do not need a whole lot of space, although their offensive line has done a heck of a job creating some really, really good running lanes. They do go forward. They're very, very multiple in their attack, good quickness, good ball skills. Both of them, I think, are outstanding players, outstanding backs.
And what does it say to you about Colorado that they've had the second half success they've had in their two games, especially with the new staff? I mean, do you glean anything from?
Well, I think you look at how much experience they have. That's invaluable. You look at how many guys have played a ton of football, and they're just. Once you play out a game, once you play a full 9 innings, or once you play a full, the full scope of a football game, so many of the situations or scenarios that come up, it sure helps when guys can reach back, and that's really proven too. And, they're, goodness, to have that many returnees from a team that was, I think just, I want to say they were 5-0 and ranked 17th in the country, and they have that many guys back, at quarterback and receiver, and then the number they have back defensively and just the size they have on both sides of the ball. They're an impressive group. They're if they were to win the Pac-12 South and the whole bit and play for the Pac-12 championship, just looking at where they are talent-wise in regards to the experience and the investment they've made as an institution, that's absolutely could see that.
And is Jakeem Patrick a guy who could potentially help you this week?
We'll see. I think what we're doing right now, we get where, I think Tuesdays for us, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because of the 2 days where you do the most padded work. And it ends up being pretty good indications and just kind of really mix and match wise how somebody would fit in a particular game plan too. So could be.
Coach, just one question about the element of surprise here, because it's been so long since you two have played, these two universities have played on the field, and the fact that you had an extra week to prepare, you only threw once against Colgate. Do you think that it benefits your team a little bit, that there are a lot of things that maybe you haven't shown that could help you on Saturday?
I don't think so. Just because really in the sport of football, there just aren't secrets. You know, both squads are going to play with 11 guys. Both teams you do for every game. You know, just the onslaught of, you know, I don't want to say exhaustive, but extremely thorough preparation, you know, that's involved for any game that you play.
Coach, they ran a flea flicker out of their own end zone last week. Now, as a coach, I mean, you know, trick plays are just kind of like, you know, it's kind of hard to prepare for them. What can you do in terms of preparation to kind of watch out for things like that? Because I don't know how many teams will run a play like that out of their own end zone.
Yeah. And that wasn't the only one. I think there were a couple others who were getting ready to go. Now, sometimes they don't make it on the film. Maybe there was a penalty, so they don't necessarily come in the – so you got to maybe go to the other school that was involved in that game and try to get a few of those 5 or 6 plays sometimes, too, that those plays didn't initially begin. So, absolutely. You know, and again, you look back, I mean, a remarkably accurate ball, because it wasn't – there was still a defender in the area and for the receiver to adjust to the ball and then take it all the way, you know, for the distance. You know, and there's so much that goes into a play like that. You know, how sudden there's still got to be enough sell at the back where it moves into the line of scrimmage, but then the instant flip and for the quarterback to be able to grip the ball and get it out of his hands, you know, to throw a long ball with that kind of accuracy was a heck of a play. You know, and yet, you know, the part that it's more than, you know, just one big play. I mean, certainly if you're looking at it solely in terms of highlights, those are captivating. You know, I think probably more than anything else, you watch just how well they execute and how well we'll have to execute too. And, you know, that's one of the things that our guys, they look forward to being able to play football. You know, and that's what's fun about being around a group of guys that work really, really hard and have good ability, which we do, and guys that love to play, and guys that really have, you know, quite an appreciation for one another as teammates too.